Eba TV, obusuga bulaire.
Much armed. That it is better that trials come to you in the beginning and you find peace afterwards than that they come to you in the end. That old men often sit in the shade because they planted a tree many years before. But I reminded us that there is a saying amongst our people that we are planting a seed today through dialogue whose shade we may never sit under, and that this requires courage to dialogue. Dialogue itself is vision made visible through courageous, conscious leadership action. Dialogue is work. Dialogue is that constant willingness to live in a new day. Dialogue is the willingness to make peace with imperfection. You are not always going to get everything that you want out of dialogue. But that dialogue is not a chit-chat amongst bored politicians. It is about diversity, inclusion, and the future focus. Such dialogue has 7 pillars. The first one is purpose. Why are we dialoguing and what for? It is people at the center, the citizens. It is processes. If we don't have systems and structures to guard what we're talking about, we will have endless talk and banter. But these processes must lead to performance or results or outcomes. But dialogue is fundamentally about how to make power in society more inclusive, how to transform how we do politics, how we do economics, and how we do power. So what is that influence? What is that effect? What are those results? We cannot do this without partnership, and that partnership must be equal and equitable. It is a relationship anchored on trust. And I wish to celebrate yourselves, excellencies, presidents of political parties, for the courageous step of standing before the nation and saying, we are willing to assume the personal agency to dialogue. Indeed, you come to this in the full knowledge of what your brother, Comrade Museveni, Kwame Nkrumah said. If we are to remain free, if we are to enjoy full benefit of Africa's resources, we must be united to plan for our total defense and full exploitation of our material and human means in the full interest of all our people. To go it alone will limit our horizon, curtail our expectations, and threaten our liberty. Dialogue is about national security. Dialogue is about human security. Dialogue is about national survival. It is not an option, it is an imperative. It is not about power, it is about transformation. It is Ngugi wa Thiong'o who, echoing some sentiments you made in 2007, said, our fathers fought bravely, but do you know the biggest weapon unleashed by the enemy against them? It was not the Maxim gun, it was division amongst them. Why? Because the people united in faith are stronger than the bomb. Thank you that today you are setting up a social bomb to bomb out poverty, to bomb out division, and to bomb out those things. I wanted to end by saying you did not come to this in the assumption that this is easy, because dialogue is work. You have come to this as political parties because a political party, as an organized group, is often the measure, is often the cornerstone of democratic process. The condition of a political party, its well-being, also reflects the health of our democratic system. If a political party system is defective, it in turn compromises the larger democratic process in society. The health of Uganda's democracy is dependent on the health of its political parties. I made a passionate appeal, sirs, that our political parties sometimes are mere shells. Shells with name, with flag, with color. Shells with cap, with slogans, with songs. But these do not have substance. They don't have depth. We have become anti-intellectual in our political parties. We have not deepened the capacity to research, to do policy, to articulate, not only for the citizens of Uganda, but to articulate in our relationship with the rest of the world. And non-thinking party is a no party. It's a collective of people who wear the same color, sing the same songs. They have not become a party. They have not become a force for transformation and change in a country. It seems to me, sirs, years you have invested in struggle, years you've invested in fashioning a future for this country, would all go to waste if your ideas, your ideals, if your legacy and your vision is squandered in petty difference. For Uganda is not to you, and I know for certain, having interacted with you, it's not a soccer match. You are not spectators describing a match you cannot do anything about. I know, President Museveni, in your absence, I had to say this because you were not here to be angry or to laugh. But let me say it, and I know you will not be angry and you will not laugh, that every time you find a Ugandan who cannot wear his shoe or he has come late home and cannot account to their wife or can't do anything, they say IMF. It does not mean International Monetary Fund. It simply means it's Museveni's fault. So if I go beyond the 5 minutes, IMF, it's Museveni's fault. That you are blamed for everything that goes wrong in a country. I appeal to the opposition that blame games may endear us to many, but they are not a measure of political acumen. Indeed, no one can escape responsibility and accountability of those in power. But it is insufficient to describe the national condition purely in terms of blame. We take collective responsibility for what happens in our nation. The failure of leadership is not the failure of leadership per se. It is the failure of citizenship, because it is citizens who elect leaders. It is citizens who do not hold leaders to account. But today, as leaders, you have come to show a good example that leaders can, whether forced or not forced, come on their own and decide to dialogue. You dialogue over grievances that Ugandans have. You dialogue over the questions of greed that have threatened this society and the political class. You dialogue over painful issues of identity that have been the bane of this country since prior to independence. Whether you are talking about the Buganda question, you are talking about Northern Uganda, you are talking about, there are many questions about nationhood and national identities. You are dialoguing about demography. You are dialoguing about the 65% of young people who feel excluded out of the state. And when you sit as leaders of parties, you have made all sacrifices. You've done everything to include. You have done everything in your opinion. But like they say in my country, no one can shave your head in your absence. Nothing for us without us. It is about time that perhaps we thought about this interesting. You are also dialoguing about external influencers. It is not enough to simply be opposed to something. We must be mindful that imperialism did not die the day we imposed, or the day we promulgated, or the day we agreed on multi-party democracies. That the designs that the external world and other forces have against Uganda did not die. As genuine people committed to this country, as Pan-Africanists, let's be mindful. Our domestic fight did not extinguish or end the international fights. The international fights to turn our countries into pariahs that can be looted at will. The sovereign will of Ugandans to survive is anchored in the sovereign desire and decision to dialogue about common future, to dialogue about current present, and to look at history with courage. It seems to me, sirs and gentlemen and ladies, that the scars of regionalization and ethnicization of politics in Uganda, the scars of the state as a site of accumulation of privilege and pillage, the scars of politicization of justice systems and institutionalization of justice, the scars of those who will in the name of the president steal, who will in the name of the president beat up the opponent, who will in the name of the president commit all sorts of offenses. I'm glad as leaders you've come today to say, if it is done in my name, it must reflect the spirit and the courage of dialogue. If it is done in my name, it must reflect the desire to see the country move forward. You have come to dialogue about how to make change, how to make transformation. I will end by saying, no change happens in an ethical or ideological vacuum. This is essentially about the development pathway of Uganda. It is essentially about how you relate as Ugandans under one roof and the terms of relationship, but how you relate with the rest of the world and the terms of that relationship. Surely we learned from the War of Liberation that collective leadership and solutions, mass mobilization, consensus, consent, and solidarity. We also learned that leadership and knowledge matters in democratization and in governance, that armies and intellectuals are equally important. I have said, and I know that it has often been attributed to a Kenyan academic, but I've come to reclaim that saying is originally mine, and it will remain originally mine. That those who have power often have limitation of ideas or rejection of ideas. Those who have ideas often have no power. And the genius of the Ugandan dialogue is to bring power, ideas, and transformation into one room. No leadership ever survives without intergenerational thinking. But no young person is entitled to leadership simply because they are young. Because youth is a passing phase. When I first met the Prime Minister, the Honorable Rugunda in '97, I was a youth, I didn't have a pot belly. But today, sir, I think you had an afro, and I know that God has been gracious to you and given you a shining head, and He has given me a constructive front. And I'm grateful that we are joyous reminders to young people that revolution is not the gift that comes from complaining. Revolution is the gift that comes from participation. You engage and you fashion your own future. This is not to say to the old people, do not include young people, but it is to say to the young people, it is not enough to be at the center of power. Power requires ideas that can run that power. To give people without ideas power is to create a constituency of mercenaries. And our countries right now need persons who understand our sovereign desires, people who understand our developmental aspirations, people who appreciate the economic imperatives of this development. Political parties are often economically ignorant, financially illiterate. But I thank God that this dialogue is about how do we build from inwards outwards? How do we build together so that we build with everyone else? Sirs, thank you for indulging me. May Uganda prosper, not simply because God desires you to prosper, but leadership that is courageous and does dialogue, gives expression not only to the desire of God, but to the desire of common sense. They used to say it's not common, but here in Uganda today you've shown that not only is common sense common, courage is also not that stuff that is done by people who wield axes. They say in Uganda, in the old days, if he has already thrown his spear at you, it shows that he does not fear you. If you have already come here, it shows that you are not afraid to talk. May God bless you as you talk.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Tamuka Kagoro, a true son of Africa. Thank you for that very, very inspirational summary. At this point, Your Excellency and honorable presidents of the parties and senior leaders here present, allow me to take this opportunity to invite the Honorable Eimert van Middelkoop, the chairperson of the Netherlands Institute of Multi-Party Democracy Advisory Council, Supervisory Council. It is his first time in Uganda. Because of the importance of this function, you're most welcome, sir, to make your remarks.
Thank you, Frank. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished party leaders, ladies and gentlemen, of course, I do realize now that we all are very curious about the results of the side event, so I have to be short, and I will. But first of all, thank you for inviting me to this momentous occasion. I am really very honored to be here as the chairman of the Supervisory Council of the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy. And I'm grateful to see our name here on the banner, and it makes me a little bit humble. Going back to this morning when we started, I have to say that as a devout Christian, I'm always somehow put at ease when an event starts with a prayer. So thank you, Pastor. And I feel even more confident to introduce myself and, of course, my organization more fully. I have a long background as a parliamentarian in the Netherlands. I was a member of the House of Representatives and of the Senate for many years. So politics and democracy have always been a significant part of my life. I've also served on the executive side of government as a Minister of Defense. Today, I'm here to represent the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, or NIMD. NIMD itself is an independent, non-partisan organization which works with political parties to strengthen democracy, democratic actors and institutions. Not only, of course, here in this beautiful country, Uganda, but in many countries around the world. Our roots, the roots of our organization, lie in joint action taken by Dutch political parties against the apartheid. After the end of apartheid in 1990, the Netherlands wanted to help in the transition process. And that's why my country lent its support to parties in South Africa, to start with. And when Nelson Mandela himself stated how valuable this support was and asked for us to continue, that's when NIMD was founded. The organization was founded by 7 Dutch political parties from across the political spectrum. All the parties which were represented in the Dutch parliament at that time came together to found our organization. So as you can see, the multi-party part of our name is very important to us. We are born out of multi-party dialogue. It is part of our DNA. And that is why we work as an independent organization to support dialogue between parties all around the world. And it is why we are here today as facilitators to Uganda's inter-party dialogue platform's important work. Our work in Uganda, in particular, began in 2009, so almost 10 years ago, when different Ugandan parties reached out for us to ask for help setting up their own multi-party dialogue process. And we have been here ever since, providing support to IPOD so that together we can help foster a well-functioning, strong and vibrant multi-party democracy in Uganda. It is with this vision, the vision of a strong and vibrant democracy in mind, that I would like to extend my congratulations to IPOD, to Uganda's political parties, to Frank Ruza, of course also, and to all of you, in fact, to all of Uganda for reaching an important milestone today. It is the milestone of dialogue at the highest level among your political parties. And it is the milestone of consensus and commitment to drive a constructive process that will benefit your country and your democracy as a whole. At NIMD, we always say that democracy starts with dialogue. We've heard that before today. And we truly believe that. I can tell you from out of my own experience. We believe that processes like today, where parties can come together and put their competing interests aside, are the drivers of democratic inclusion and change. Of course, when we say that democracy starts with dialogue, it does not end there. This flagship summit is only the beginning of the next phase of dialogue and legislative reforms. NIMD applauds the political parties for the steps they have taken and the commitment they have already made. And we will be there as a dedicated partner in this process. But in the end, of course, it is your dialogue. You are the leaders, and you have already had the courage to start this process. Now, the future of the dialogue rests on your shoulders. I wish you all the best for this important process you have vowed to undertake. And we will be there with all the assistance of NIMD applauding your progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Emite, and thank you so much for honoring our invite to come to Uganda. It is his first time in the Pearl of Africa.
obusoga bulayire.
Is about political hygiene and the words that we speak to each other. Because when we threaten each other, we also receive threats in turn. When we encourage each other, we receive encouragement. And that is what this summit is about. Some people were talking as if the summit was some earthquake. The summit is taking place. When it closes, we will say it has taken place, and the earth has not fallen, the sky has not fallen, because it is not an event, it is a process. And later you will hear that we have even fixed the date for the next one. And then we will connect with other people who believe in dialogue. When the Honorable Kasule Lumumba confirmed that President Museveni had finally agreed to sit with us, I asked myself, if I were the president of the country and I had 80% of parliament, would I want to talk to an absolute minority? Sometimes I think like that. If I had the army which I firmly controlled, and the police, and I was also very well respected in the region, with a lot of experience, and wielding a lot of influence, would I want to talk to people who have such few members of parliament? As I thought and reflected, I realized that actually we are not few. We may look small and few, but we represent a very powerful current in the population. And the President of Uganda, in his wisdom, has become aware that these few people represent a very powerful current. Without going into details, I want to assure you delegates that we have not insulated the President from the electricity which is in the population. We have conducted it in its full voltage, and that formed the subject of the summit. I won't go into details. Democracy starts with dialogue, our friend from the Netherlands has said. But it doesn't end with dialogue, it requires action. It really doesn't matter what we say here. What matters is what we do. And that's how we want to be judged. We cannot be judged on what we promise. A check has a face value, but until it is cashed, it is just a piece of paper. So can you take our words today to the bank and get anything? Dear friends, we have had some difficult times, and I believe these have necessitated that we talk to each other. We can't go on like this. We have even seen blood on the streets. I recall the walk to work, police bullets and tear gas. In one instance, when the commotion died down and when the smoke had floated away, one baby, Nanyonga, lay dead. Today, we have to resolve that we are a better country than this. We should be a country of law and order, but also a country of fair play and tolerance. This meeting, by the way, is a kind of paradox, but is a paradox that can save the future of our country. After taking the oath in 2016, the President of the Republic vowed that by 2021 there will be no opposition party left. Here we are talking about strengthening all political parties. That is why it is a paradox. On our part, as the opposition, we also threatened that we would evict him before the next elections. And here we are talking about peaceful transition. Dear friends, this process can lead to a national conversation. We can have a caucus of the whole country, actually. We have no more excuses not to talk to each other. I was looking for an excuse not to come. I failed. So I am here because we have no more excuses. We believe in a lot of excuses. As my brother Brian Kagoro said, that everybody blames everything on the president of the country. In the Bible, there's the story of that man who was lying by the pool at Bethesda. For years, he was crippled. According to the Bible, an angel came every afternoon, once in a while, and stirred up that pool And if you were strong enough to jump in the pool at that moment, you would be healed of whatever ailment you have. But that man had been lying there. Somehow he could not get himself to the pool in time. So when Jesus passed by, he gave Jesus a litany of excuses. You know, I'm too weak. When the angel stirs the water, there's nobody to lift me and throw me in the water. I've been here for years. Jesus asked only one question. Do you want to get well? All their excuses are irrelevant. What do you want? I think it is important that Ugandans tell each other what they want. And we told each other what we want today. In simple terms, instead of giving excuses. Dear friends, our country has had a tragic history. But I have confidence in the future. I believe our country is blessed. I believe our country will be prosperous. I believe we can build on the ashes of whatever tragedies that we have. Sometimes tragedies work for the better. There's a man who was marooned one time on an island. He had no way to escape his loneliness, to go back home. One day he went hunting, came back and found some grass thatch hut he had built had caught fire. That's when he realized that his life was finished. As he was rolling on the ground in pain, he heard a voice saying, "We have come to rescue you." And he saw a captain of a ship. And the captain was smiling, while for him he was lamenting. And the captain said, "We saw your smoke signal." Now, for him, his house was burning and it was a tragedy. The ship which was passing by saw the smoke and they thought it was a signal, calling for rescue. I think today we can say the world is also seeing our smoke signal as Ugandans. We are not an isolated case. Dear friends, we believe that we should ask some difficult questions, whether we are still on track, whether we are living up to the lofty aspirations of the '95 Constitution, whether we are committed to the best answers as opposed to whose answer, but rather the best answer. I want to assure you on behalf of the Democratic Party that as long as we can agree on the path, we can work together as members of IPOD. For peace and justice, we can work together. For inclusion and equal opportunity, we can work together. For free and fair elections, we can work together. For national healing and the binding of all wounds in our body politic, we can work together. In the summit, we did three things. First, we inquired. We listened to each other with the intention of genuinely understanding where each one is coming from. We suspended judgment on each other. Secondly, we each advocated for our positions. I won't go into details, because we have a duty to explain our points of view. That is why we have dialogue. And we did this without being aggressive or defensive. I was there. I can tell you there was no aggressiveness, there was no defensiveness. Lots of concessions have been made today. You will hear about them. We sought to understand each other without abandoning our very strongly held views. This summit is not just about showing a smooth surface to the world. What we are engaged in requires that we show respect, challenge each other's opinions, ask tough questions, and also take a stand. It's not true that we all agree on everything. All of us took a stand, individual stands. But most importantly, we have connected. The challenge of IPOD is to keep the connection open so that we can accomplish what we want to achieve. Dear friends, there are risks in every process, especially where you have a team of rivals. Each of us is a rival. We call ourselves opposition, but Jema is my opponent when elections come, and UPC is also my opponent. So why do we need IPOD? We need IPOD because we need to sanitize our political processes so that we can compete. But above all, we are accepting that we may not be equal in size and power or even age, but we are equal in our commitment to give dialogue a chance. That is what has given us the strength to take the risks, because we are at a historical junction. We are looking at the opportunities in IPOD, not the problems. We believe that we can have meaningful and fruitful dialogue. This is a battle of ideas, not a battle of egos. Indeed, we have grievances. Of course, we have grievances. Numerous grievances. We have amplified our disappointments over the many broken promises, the instances when we have moved further away from the path of constitutionalism and rule of law and respect for fundamental rights. But politics is not just about arguing with each other. By the way, we never talked about ourselves. We talked about the people of Uganda. And we talked about Uganda. That's the beauty of it. Because while politicians argue,
tetuli betegefu kudda mabega paka nga eggwanga lyaffe lituuse wetwagala libeere.
Aye kiri eriife ng'abamawulire okulemera ku nsonga wano mu programu Webuzibiire twasala okulemera ku nsonga.
Surely I think the devil has come.
Times we have fake news, we have those who bend the truth, we have fanatics, petty radicals, and those who don't want to see any other alternative viewpoint. Somebody defined a fanatic as somebody who approaches any question with an open mouth and a closed mind. IPOD is about opening our mouths, but also opening our minds. Not opening our mouths and closing our minds. Today, we have started the process of diffusing tensions because we have found some points of agreement. A good starting point is the love for our people and our country. We need to find common ground, however small. We believe very strongly that if we ignore dialogue, then we will have cursed the future generations. It is our duty that we listen to each other with sincerity. IPOD can be a source of hope. I want to thank the media for all the controversy they created around the IPOD summit. IPOD now is the most Googled thing in Uganda. When you start Googling IPOD summit, before you have finished the words, it will come automatically from Google. It means all Ugandans are asking, what is this thing called IPOD summit? So you have done a good job. As I close, there are many cynics and skeptics out there, but we should, by our words and actions, send out a clear message that what we are engaged in is not just about leaders, politics, and politicians. It is about Uganda. It is about our country and putting it first. Our goal should be that Uganda should see for once what we have never seen before: peaceful transition. That for once we should have an army that lasts more than one regime. That we break the cycle of violent and unconstitutional changes of government. Mr. President, it would be wonderful if you attended the swearing in of a president that is not you. We all have to live up to the high expectations our people have of you and us. 26 January, it will be 33 years since the NRM assumed power. It is not for us in this room to judge the NRM or the president of Uganda. The judges are out there. Graduates who read of economic growth but can't find jobs. Local entrepreneurs who lose contracts to foreigners. Peasants who are losing their land to the rich, powerful, and well-connected. Farmers frustrated by the lack of support. Those are the judges, it is not me. We don't have that power to judge. But Mr. President, I for one know some good attributes about you. And I'll say them here in public. Because we have come here to demonstrate that we are willing to meet you in broad daylight, because we can't meet you any other time. I don't know where others meet you, but for us this is our only chance to meet you. Number one, you understand human flaws. That one is a gift you have. You know that human beings have inherent weaknesses. Sometimes leaders fail when they don't appreciate that human beings are imperfect. I've observed that. The second attribute is that you understand that things take time. We also appreciate that. So on the basis of understanding human flaws and knowing that things take time, we now have to invest time together to craft the future. And we also understand the flaws of those who oppose you, in order that we may not judge them too harshly and label them as people who don't love Uganda. Dear friends, today we don't know where we are heading, but we have started. The journey has begun. We have taken the first step. Today we are saying we are no longer going to quarrel about form and not substance. I want to assure members we have discussed substantive matters in the summit. Sometimes politicians, like Brian Kagoro was talking about that quarrel between two neighbors, sometimes people argue about non-issues. There was a man who one time hired a donkey, and he was accompanied by the owner of the donkey. When they reached the road and it was too hot, they decided to rest. And the owner of the donkey decided to sit in the shadow of the donkey. The man who hired it said, "No, this shadow is mine. I hired the donkey, so even the shadow it casts is mine." So they started quarreling over the shadow, and the donkey took off. We have to build an oil refinery. We have to build a standard gauge. We have to achieve the Vision 2040. That is the donkey. If we fight over the shadows, those things will gallop away. If we are united, we don't have to borrow money for the refinery. I'm sure if the refinery is floated publicly, every Ugandan who wants us to add value to our oil will want to be a shareholder in that company. That way, we will not have to beg the Russians, the Chinese, and so on. But we cannot achieve anything if we are quarreling over who owns the shadow of the donkey, instead of minding about the donkey. Lastly, let it be said by future generations, our children's children, that when we faced a test to choose between chaos and community, we did not turn back, and that we did our part, and with God's grace, we bequeathed to them a new political culture where politics is a competition to serve, not a struggle for survival. Thank you very much for listening to me. I have a gift for the national chairman of the NRM, which I would also like to hand over to him on behalf of a party he once belonged to. Maybe this will go into his museum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Norbert Mao, the President General of the Democratic Party. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take the privilege and honor now to invite the Honorable Party President of the Justice Forum, Jema, to come and make his statement.
the chairman of the National Resistance Movement, who is also the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Uganda People's Congress, who is also the current chair of the summit, Honorable Jim Akena, the President General of the Democratic Party, the Honorable Norbert Mao, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda, the Secretaries General of the different political parties in IPOD, delegations, ladies and gentlemen. JEMA, or the Justice Forum, came to this long-awaited summit aware of the several items on the agenda. However, as a party, we are here to achieve one objective. And that objective, distinguished guests, is to get assurance and commitment that this process that has brought us here will be a process whose outcomes must be respected. We are here to get assurances and commitment that from today onwards, this country must be guided by human rights and freedoms as they appear in our Constitution. We are here to get assurance and commitment that associational freedoms must be respected. We cannot live in a country, we cannot talk about multipartyism without the critical aspect of associational freedoms. One of the reasons why some of our colleagues are not here is because of the belief, and rightly so, that associational freedoms are not being respected in this country. So we are here with the hope and expectation that we will get assurance and commitment that associational freedoms will be respected. That from today onwards, no activity, meeting, rally, or event organized by a registered political party shall ever be blocked by police or another agency. We are here to get assurance and commitment that political opponents shall not be treated as enemies, and their activities should never be criminalized. As we speak now, distinguished guests, one of our colleagues who is being perceived as a political opponent cannot hold music shows, Bobby Wine. His music shows have been outlawed. But we are speaking of a country where we must be respecting not only the right to associate, but also the right to practice a profession. So we hope that part of the assurance we get from here is that political opponents should never and should not be treated as enemies. We are also here to seek assurance and commitment that torture will not define our body politic, because it has become rampant. Each time people are being arrested, you are witnessing untold torture. But torture should not define our image of our country. When we move out of this country, we must remain proud. But we can only remain proud if and only if there is respect for human dignity. We are here to get assurance and commitment that our security agencies do not arrest people, then make investigations later. It has become a very fundamental problem where people are arrested, they are remanded, and when they are brought to court, they are informed that investigations are still ongoing. And this runs across board. For example, we have a section of Muslims who were arrested, they were detained, and up to now, they are being told investigations are still ongoing. People were arrested in Arua, in various parts of the country. They were remanded, and up to now, they are being informed investigations are ongoing. Then you begin to ask, why arrest people first and make investigations later? That will undermine and jeopardize our criminal justice system. So JEMA came here to get assurance that occurrences of this nature will not happen again. We are also here to get assurances and commitment that we will have timely electoral and constitutional reforms that engender an agenda for democracy. What has been happening is for us to have reforms towards the end of the term or tenure of Parliament. And as a result, many important and critical reforms are omitted simply because there isn't enough time to deal with them. So we hope that that assurance and commitment will be obtained today. We are also here to get assurance that we will have equal opportunity in both civil and public service, that every Ugandan who merits to serve in any capacity gets there through merit and not patronage. We are also here to get assurance that there shall be mutual respect for each other in both words and action. We believe and hope that from today onwards, the language we use to address each other will be a language of courtesy, will be a language of respect. So statements like those we've been witnessing that undermine the opposition, that undermine coexistence, should now be of the past if we are to think about moving forward. We believe that once we get that assurance and commitment, the rest will follow, and nobody will fear to engage with anybody. If we can have that commitment today and append our signatures to it, then that will define our future progress and our future discussion. We also believe that such assurance and commitment will serve to address part of the skepticism and reservations that have been expressed prior to this conference. And that skepticism and reservation, some of it bordering on derogatory remarks. If you follow what has been happening on social media and elsewhere, people are saying, we are going for a photo opportunity. We are going to take tea. We are going to do X, Y, and Z. Of course, people take tea, and people like photos. And even those who don't want photo opportunities are taking photos elsewhere. But what is very fundamental is for us to assure the country and the world that this is beyond the simplicity of what people are saying. And at the end of it all, I have the hope and belief that JEMA found this process in the offing. We are the newest member of IPOD. Actually, we are 1 month old in IPOD. By the time we joined IPOD, there was a process for a summit. JEMA would be the last party to sabotage or suffocate an IPOD process. And we are fully committed, and we think that through this process, we'll be able to achieve more. I want to thank NIMD, the Council of Secretaries Generals, and the leadership of the IPOD member parties for making this summit a reality for God and my country. I understand there is now a practice developing. When the IPOD members visited the headquarters of the NRM, the Secretary General of the NRM, my sister Justin Lumumba, we both come from Bujiri, gave gifts, told the parties that attended. They included a cap and I think a shirt, okay? So a culture has developed. We are going to continue with that culture, Honorable Kasule Lumumba. And each time we have a forum of this nature, we will exchange gifts. DP has given the chairman of the NRM a cup, okay? So that he really becomes the man with the heart. We are giving the chairman of the NRM a gift in the form of a very nice t-shirt of fitting style. Because the Mulembe now is one of fitting. Mr. President, I want you to accept to kindly receive this gift from the Just Forum Party. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Asman Basalirwa, for your remarks and for that gift to the chairman of the NRM. Now I'll request that as I invite the president of the IPOD Summit, the chairman of IPOD Summit, I'll request that after he makes his remarks, he will be the one to invite the president of Uganda and also the chairman of the NRM to make his remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, I take the privilege and honor now, in a special way, to invite the president of the Uganda People's Congress and also the chairman of the IPOD Summit to make his statement.
Congress of the people. UPC. Thank you very much, my Congress members. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda and Chairman of the National Resistance Movement, the President General of the Democratic Party, the President of the Justice Forum, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished guests, and honorable delegates. I have had an incredible day. Unlike my colleagues, being in the chair, I looked at my role as primarily to facilitate dialogue. And in the dialogue, I can testify there was a lot of candor, there was directness, and there was honesty. We were able to cover a lot of ground, and I can apologize that if we took too long, I had difficulties stopping some of those discussions. I felt, being such an important event, I should let the dialogue go on. And on that basis, I apologize for any delays or any inconvenience, but it was useful, it was fruitful, and I think it is very important that we're able to have such honest discussions across party lines. There was nothing that was shelved, but everything was handled in a way which brought out the issues and brought out the concerns. We listened to one another and respected the views of each of the parties represented. I would have much loved that this had taken place in Uganda House. This is an inter-party organization for dialogue. Our parties have respective headquarters. I think it is appropriate that we visit one another and we discuss matters in our own homes. I would love that we would have the Uganda House Declaration or the Uganda House Commitments. But the fact that we have had it is more important than where we had it. Many matters have been conclusively dealt with. And I hope, in the spirit of this dialogue and in the honesty or the candor in which it was approached, that the next summit, our colleagues from FDC will be present and available. Their concerns were articulated by all the parties present, and a lot of discussion took place. So on the questions and the concerns ably raised by President General Mao and Asuman Basalirwa of JEMA, we have actually made very important progress. It is such days as this that I get the feeling that as Ugandans, we can do a lot more if we offer ourselves a little more understanding. There was a lot of pent-up issues, and therefore the need to express them is why we had to take a lot more time than what was originally allotted. But at the end of the day, it was worthwhile. We cannot chart a way into a future with the lack of dialogue. Many issues develop out of misunderstandings and a lack of communication. These sort of events or processes are most welcome. I know that there were those who complained that dialogue has to go beyond the political actors. I totally agree. But as those of us who are in the political field, we must take the lead in fostering this dialogue. We are the ones in the forefront, we are the ones who constantly have disagreements, and where a political question is not conclusively or properly handled, it spills over to other sectors of society. So as political leaders, it was important that we take this first step as fostering or laying the platform whereby dialogue can thrive and Uganda can benefit. I thank all of those who participated in that. We always, in this whole process, have put Uganda first. I repeat what I had said earlier, that Uganda must succeed irrespective of what happens. We must always make sure that Uganda succeeds or Uganda benefits from whatever processes take place. I am glad to have been part of this, and it's days like this where some of our old songs ring to mind. I know the chairman of the National Resistance Movement was a one-time member of the Uganda People's Congress. That was after he had left the Democratic Party. But for those of us in Congress, we like to celebrate issues, often with song. And there's an old song which used to talk about Uganda moving forward. It is days like this that I feel that we're moving forward as one nation. That these divisions of which party or what position take second rate to the dream of a prosperous and a united Uganda. It is on that basis that I will continue to support dialogue, irrespective of the comments. As President Mao aptly said, Many people made many pronouncements about this dialogue. And it is true, it is a process. But the process has to begin somewhere. We cannot put conditions which prevent the process from starting. And hence, I'm the one who went on record to say, even if it is a cup of tea, I will be there. Because while you're having that cup of tea is where you can begin the conversation. As a nation, this conversation is important, and ultimately, we must have a dispensation which can transition the political question. I agree with my slightly older brother Mao. I would love to witness President Yoweri Museveni attending a swearing-in ceremony of a president other than himself. And that Uganda will be united. I said it earlier, I would love to see an election where there are winners and losers, and nobody complains that the election was rigged. Nobody claims victory apart from those who are genuinely elected. So we have a big task, but the first steps have been made. On that note, allow me, unfortunately, Mr. President, I don't think UPC had prepared to give you either a T-shirt or a cap, but you have our genuine good wishes. Honorable members, can we welcome the President of the Republic of Uganda and Chairman of the National Resistance Movement.
Baba TV obusoga bulayire.
I'm very happy to attend this dialogue because dialogue, as somebody said, is the beginning of democracy. I don't know why anybody who says he's a Democrat would not want dialogue. I always welcome opportunity for dialogue. When you don't dialogue, you miss opportunity to be understood clearly. Because when I dialogue with you, I tell you exactly what I think. So you may understand me better. And I may influence you to come to my side. So why would a Democrat fear dialogue? When you are starting I don't think really that is the most important. And it's good that he's saying that. And I'm also going to tell him what I think is important. Why, and that's why I joined politics. And that's why I'm still in politics. 2 words. And these words these two words are part of 5 words which I captured in my speech recently at Makerere on Mandela Day. On that day, I mentioned 5 words that are here. Why I joined politics, even when I don't have a background of politics. I will not talk about the other 3 because they are sort of addressed by history. And we don't have enough time today. I will only talk about 2. First point, first word is prosperity. How can our families, our companies, our business people be prosperous? They can be prosperous through production of goods and services. When you produce a good or a service, that's what can help you to be prosperous. Me, I am a cattle keeper. I produce milk. And I would like people to buy this milk. And they are buying it. That's why I'm prosperous. The people of Uganda are buying my milk. The more buyers I have, the more prosperous I become. And the people who make me prosperous are not the Banyankore, because Banyankore also have milk. They have milk, I have milk. They don't buy my milk, I don't buy theirs. So the people who make me prosperous are the people of Kampala who buy my milk. But the people of Kampala are not enough, because the milk we are producing now is more than the consumption of Uganda. The people of East Africa are the ones helping me also to be prosperous. The people of Kenya, the people of South Sudan, the people of Congo. So therefore, the political leaders, instead of talking about tribes, instead of talking about religion, instead of just talking about transition, that Mao sits and he sees another president swearing, that is the most important. Please, even if you can have as many transitions as the years can accommodate, but if we don't deal with the issue of the prosperity of our people, Africa would be in trouble. So the first one you should think about is prosperity. Now, why I joined politics was that I had already started seeing this, because even by the 1960s, we were already reading world history, Europe and so on, and realized that one of the factors that was behind the unification of Germany, Germany was not one country. By 1870, Germany was 39 kingdoms. This Germany you see today was 39 kingdoms. Bavaria, Prussia, Saxon, and so on. But there was one leader called Bismarck, who saw the danger, said if Germany is not united, if the market of Germany is not united, Germans will be poor. We must unite Germany so that it's one market, so that when you produce a product from one end, it is sold in the whole of Germany, so that the Germans get prosperity. The same with Italy. Italy had many, until 1860, it was not a united country. Now, by the 1960s, in our studies, we had started knowing some of these issues. Unfortunately, our leaders also were talking about it. But unfortunately, some of them walked away. Now, the one who was very consistent was Mwalimu Nyerere, who was working for the East African Federation. That's how I came to be a follower of Mwalimu Nyerere. Even to go to study in Tanzania, I was not looking for education because there was a university here at Makerere. I was looking for connecting with Mwalimu Nyerere because he had the right idea of uniting East Africa so that we can have a strong market and be able to support the prosperity of our people. This is reason number one I am in politics. It's about the prosperity of our people. If you don't deal with this, you're talking about only election. Elections for what? To do what? To have new members of parliament. So they do what? To have a new president. So that he does what? Me, I am in politics because of the prosperity of our people. That's number one. Number two, strategic security. How can Africa be secure? Why was Africa colonized in the first place? By 1900, the whole of Africa had been colonized. Why? There are reasons for that. Have we solved the original problem why Africa was colonized? That's the second reason I'm with politics. There are other reasons, 5 others, there are 3 others, but I don't have time to go into them. So therefore, for me, I am in politics because of two additional words. Survival for Africa and the destiny of Africa. Africa was colonized, the whole of Africa by 1900. Only Ethiopia was not colonized. Why? Why were we colonized? Some people try to say it was because of technology. This is not true. At that time, China was still backward. The Europeans tried to colonize China, but they failed. They only ended up in Hong Kong and Macau, and they couldn't manage the whole of China. Japan, the Europeans tried to colonize Japan, they failed. But the whole of Africa was colonized. Why? The chiefs were here, the kings were here, putting on monkey skins, putting on leopard skins, putting on lions, that they are lions. But if you are lions, why were you conquered? You don't hear leaders talking about why was Africa colonized. Talking about all things in the world, but not talking about. And being colonized was not something nice. Some of the people who were colonized perished. You now talk of Americans. The people you call Americans today are actually Europeans. The original Americans disappeared. They are not there. Where are they? 600 years ago, when Christopher Columbus arrived in America, there were Americans, Red Indians. That's what they are called. When you go to America today, you find a few of them in some sort of national park where they are called reserves. That's where they are. In some of the other countries of South America, the indigenous people disappeared completely. You can't trace them. We in Africa here could have perished. Indeed, the Europeans had settled in Kenya. By around 1950s, a part of Kenya was called the White Highlands. And the Mau Mau had to fight to chase those people. In Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, where the young man comes from, the one who was talking here. In South Africa, we the black people survived in spite of the colonization. We were colonized because of the incompetence of our chiefs. The one putting on monkey skins and leopard skins and the alliance. We were colonized because of the incompetence and bankruptcy of our chiefs, who could not organize this properly. We did not perish like the Red Indians because of our genes. Africans do not easily die. Even when we were taken into slavery, we survived. Up to now, they are there in America. So, the political class, instead of talking about the destiny of Africa, you are talking about petty things. Elections, who comes, who. That's why I have said, if I still have strength, I will put my point of view. Not to retire when Africa, when the original issues of Africa, why Africa nearly perished, are not addressed. And you're just addressing small things, elections, this one. If you are, the ones you are electing them to do what exactly? That's what you should answer. So, Excellency, these are not yet excellencies, they are just honorable. Honorable chairpersons. These are my reasons for being in politics. I have no other interest in politics. I don't need a living in politics. I'm a cattle keeper, and that is my. So I'm glad that you called me here so that I tell you this. Now, regarding the other smaller issues, the ones you are talking about all the time, Association of Freedoms, this is Basara now. Association of Freedoms. Where Basara gave a good summary of the right to assemble and so on. But he left out one issue. There's no problem in people assembling. Because during the campaigns, the rival candidates assemble. You find somebody holds a rally here, another one holds a rally here. The only problem we have is that some people decide to assemble in markets. Why do you want to hold a rally in a market where people are selling their products? I discussed with them in great detail. That's problem number one. Number two, they say some of the groups actually behave as if they are on the verge of being terrorists. Indeed, these people know we lost a number of Ugandans. One of them was called Babu. He was a member of one of the opposition parties from Bushenyi. He was killed in Congo, in Bunya, and eaten by my allies there, because I had allies there. They killed him and ate him. Babu, you go and check. Somebody called Babu from Bushenyi, who was from one of the parties. He was in Bunya. He was killed there and eaten there. Because some of my allies there were cannibals. They were eating people. But they were my allies. They were with me on my side. Some of the poor people survived, 22 of them. They came to the court. The Honorable Gora saw them. Those people who were arrested in Congo and they were brought here. Now, another Ugandan called Opoka died in South Sudan, killed by coin, because that poor Opoka was a university graduate. He left here. He went. He joined one of the parties here, which took him to Rwanda. From Rwanda, he went to Congo. From I don't know where, he ended up in South Sudan. He was killed there by coin. So, if you have got political actors whose one leg is in constitutional politics, another leg is in unconstitutional conduct, we are not fools. You saw what happened in France recently, where there was so much damage to the property of people. Nobody will do that here when I'm here in charge. I will deal with you beforehand so that I protect the property of the people. So therefore, I think the judges say, if you want justice, you come with clean hands. I think I have had lawyers giving that. Yes. You cannot come to justice when you say you are a Democrat on one side and you are a terrorist on another side. And you think you are dealing with people who don't know. Because we know, we have all this information. Somebody is organizing a demonstration as a trigger to something else, which we already know. Of course, Masaro has rightly criticized the police. He has said, why don't you then get enough evidence and get a conviction? I totally agree. The police should be more organized so that they get convictions in court. But really, the problem of assembly is not a problem at all. It is because of three issues. First, venue. Where do you want to meet? To have a public rally. In the market, no. The market is a place for tomatoes and binzari and butunguru of small people. We are not going to allow you to have a rally there. If you want to have a rally in a stadium, in another place, yes, no problem. Secondly, what is your intention? If your intention is to cause trouble like what happened in France recently, no, we are not going to allow you. We shall resist you like we resisted the troublemakers. Then thirdly, the message. What message are you going to give? What message are you giving? Because you hear some people say they want to organize what they call Arab Spring, like Arab Spring. You have heard of the Arab Spring, how people destroyed, they destroyed the Middle East by anarchy. We are not going to allow that because that is unconstitutional. That means you want to change the constitution, to change power by means other than elections. That's actually treason. So if you have such intentions, are we going to allow you? No, sorry. And we have the capacity not to allow you. All this trouble, there's been some trouble, we have had some bad publicity abroad, CNN and so on, but I'm very happy myself that I have fulfilled my pledge to the Ugandans to defend the women in the market so that their properties are not looted, to defend the shops so that the shops, we have never had looting under the NRM. The last time there was looting in Uganda was 1979. Even 1986 when we took over, nobody could loot shops. Shops were not looted. There's never been looting under NRM and it's not going to be there. So, political actors, please, you can have any other dreams, forget about chaos. Then we shall have no problem about having a rally. We agree on venue, and the Honorable Basar reminded me that these were already in the Public Management Act. They are actually in the law. But the law is not followed. This is the problem. We agree on the venue. Make sure that you don't have other intentions, which of course we know. Because even now, people are going to meet. I know where they are meeting. They go here, they go there. They think where they are going is heaven. I am also there. Wherever they go, I am also there. Then, on the issue of torture, we are totally against torture. But what you should know is that this country of yours is growing. Like the soldiers who are beating people. They made a mistake. I saw the video, I called them, I called all those young people, the soldiers. They had their own explanations, but I explained to them. But they came in, like the ones in Arua, they came in because of the indiscipline of the political actors. Of course, they should also have been more prepared, which they were not. But what you should be happy about is that in spite of those weaknesses, Uganda is overall stable. We don't have a breakdown like we have in some of the other places. Now, those people who have mistakes, we shall correct them. Like these people, I wrote a circular, I explained to them when to be firm. Of course, this was already in the Police Act, but some of them had not read it properly. So really, these are curable. They are problems, but they are curable. Now, regarding the arrests before trial, I totally agree. These people should not just arrest anyhow. They can actually call and interrogate and release. They don't have to arrest all the time. And I'm going to work on that. I totally agree that that's a wrong way. The merit versus patronage. This is an unfair accusation. This is an unfair accusation. Ever since the NRM came into government, when the Mzee Kangaga was head of the Public Service Commission, I requested him to start promotional examinations. All the entrance into Uganda public service is by examination. by the Public Service Commission, interviews, Health Service Commission, Educational Service Commission. This is all, you enter by merit. Judicial Service Commission, these are people are examined. They are examined and they are scored. They are given marks. All these people who enter the public service, it is we who did this for the first time. Not only interviews, but also interviews with marking. And the promotion is again by examination. So really you can make your points, but please don't say things which are not correct. Wiping out the opposition. Yes, I said that point. And you are in danger of being wiped out. Why? Because you miscalculate. You allow the NRM to be the one to solve the problems alone. Because you take a wrong position. We had a war in northern Uganda. Kony was killing people. The NRM said the answer for Kony is to fight and defeat him. Some of the opposition were saying, no, 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 you beg Kony. We said, no, we cannot beg Kony. Some people were calling Kony Ladit. That is Ladit. Ladit means symbol of respect. For us, we said Kony is a criminal. And we fought him and defeated him alone. The opposition did not support, I don't remember the opposition which was supporting us on the issue of Kony. Huh? Mao was once in a while, not consistently, but some of the others would spend time attacking us as if we were the problem. So we took the lead, defeated Kony. So we took the credit. We took the credit. Because everybody could see, Abesimbu, as they say in Uganda, the straightforward ones, in this case, were these NRM. That's why in the elections of 2011, NRM won actually in the whole country. Yeah. Because we had done the right thing alone. It comes the issue of the Karamojong cattle rustlers. To do, we have now succeeded. Like recently, people are attacking, people are very worried about Uganda. Because Uganda finally is coming up under the NRM as a big regional industrial base. Factories everywhere, wherever you go. You drive along Ginger Road, if you have eyes. See Namanve, see Mukonos, all those factories. You go to Guru Road, see what's happening there. Go to Kapeka. Uganda now is exporting more to Kenya than Kenya is exporting to Uganda. With the whole of East Africa, Uganda is exporting $1.2 billion, while we are importing from East Africa $800 million. So we now have a trade surplus with East Africa of $400 million. And we are just starting. We are just starting. Now, some people who are worried about this started attacking the Chinese. Can you imagine? Attacking the Chinese, trying to kill them, robbing them, attacking Indians. Why are they attacking them? Because they are the investors who are bringing these factories. They want them to run away. We have now come in. We are going to defeat these criminals. Yes, they have caused some casualties on our side. They killed Abiriga. They killed Kawesi. They killed our sheikhs, our Muslim sheikhs, Bahiga and others. But we are going to defeat them. I tell you, we are going to defeat them. And when I defeat them, I would say, Narindwananzeka, I was fighting alone. I was fighting alone. Banange Munkursi, congratulate me. Mbadenwa our opposition, because you have not spoken. Somebody has died, you don't come out. Was he not among the killers? That's why I said, Banange, because I know my strength. Nobody can defeat us by these means. We are going to defeat the criminals. We are going to defeat the unemployment by industrialization. But I'm not getting support from you people. So when I succeed alone, and actually the others attack me instead. Nobody has ever commented that, oh, Uganda, although we have problems, but at least we are doing well here. At least we are doing well. No, they speak as if I am zero. But if you see, I'm not zero. Say, how will you survive now? So what I said was just an observation, Banange. It was not a threat. It was just saying that. But this is not new. When we were fighting even against Amin, when we were fighting Amin, many people said, how will you manage Amin? You said, we shall manage. We shall manage, we shall struggle. We shall struggle. They thought we wouldn't manage, but we managed. So that's what I was saying. You, the opposition, in fact, you are surviving by the mistakes of our leaders who don't implement things properly. If they implemented things properly, and you go on with this negativity, you will not survive. People will turn against you because people are not fools. They can see. They can see. That's what I was saying. But if you work together on the positive things, then you will share in the victory. So I'm very happy with this dialogue. Just before I conclude, 2 points. The Wanyankara have a proverb. Say ektetekatechirwe emboka hongo mukaro. I think if you put it literally, it means that when somebody is not prepared for something, it is like once when somebody threw omukalo, the dried meat, at a dog, the dog ran away thinking that the mukalo was a stone, when in fact it was something good for the dog. So this dialogue is good because we talk, and then you discover that what you thought was a stone was actually a mukalo. That's why I like the dialogue. Now, finally, the Honorable Mao has said that I am one of the surviving members of the summit of this summit. But it's more than that. I have been leading what became the NRM for the last 53 years. Because we started this line, which eventually became NRM, because I was in DP before, 1960. So when I hear that people are talking of DP, when Museveni is there, I said, Banangabu. Museveni is saying DP and not Ambulatia. DP is saying Museveni and not Ambulatia, Margarita Mirembe. I was in DP from 1960 to 1970. Then I joined UPC for 5 months. I tried to help them. Then I started, but before, I had started this new line. The student leadership in the 1960s, then FRONASA, then eventually NRM after 1980. But what I would like to end with, and that's why I welcome you here. I saw with my eyes how those young leaders missed their opportunity. 1962, I was 18 years old, and I was in senior 2. And I was already an active youth of DP. Those leaders were all young people. Obote was 35 years old. Mutesa was 39 years old. Ibingira was 28. Nekyon was 28. Kakonge was 26. Young. I don't remember any old person among them. So be careful when you're talking about youth. Youth is biology. And I'm glad the Zimbabwe boy, the man from Zimbabwe, he said, please, don't only talk about biology, youth. That's biological. Talk about ideology. It must be biology and ideology. Because these leaders were all youth. Idi Amin, 39 years old. The only one who was above 40 maybe was Nadiope. And maybe Chiria, BK Chiria. I don't think any one of them was 50. Was 50 was Mzee Kenyatta in Kenya. All these were young. And I could see these people missing their opportunity. Even Chuanuka would have been in his late 30s, I think. Ben Chuanuka. I don't think he was, certainly he was not 50. He would have been either late 30s or early 40s. Ben Chuanuka, Bataringa, all of them. But the people just lost their opportunity. I think the biggest problem was lack of ideology, number one. Lack of ideology. Number two, egoism. Egoism. I think these were the two problems. Example. They started by making politics sectarian. DP was for the Catholics. Me, I was a member of DP, although I'm not a Catholic, but this was because also of the local sectarianism in Ankole. There was some local sectarianism there. So because of that, one of the groups joined DP, although they were not Catholics. So you had an alliance of some of those people with the DP locally there. But otherwise, nationally, DP was for the Catholics. UPC for the Protestants. Kabaka Yeka for the Baganda Protestants. Now, this was a fundamental flaw from the beginning. Because when you go to politics of identity, first of all, it is wrong, because identity will not solve my problem. I told you that I produce milk, the Banyankole don't buy my milk, because they also have milk. The ones who buy my milk are actually the other people. That's how I am prosperous, not because of the Banyankole, but because of Uganda, because of East Africa. But here you were. People are talking of that DP Egumire was Catholicism. Catholicism Egumire. When you hear that UPC is Egumire, is Catholicism Egumire, because I was a member of that. I was not a Catholic, but there was some other local sectarianism. UPC is everywhere, but actually it was not everywhere. It was only in the churches and a little bit in the mosques, but not in the Keresia. There was hardly any UPC there in the Keresia. So it was not everywhere. Kabaka Yeka. Kabaka Yeka was a very big mistake by Mengo. First of all, they involved the king in politics. Now, if the king gets involved in politics, you are putting him in danger. Kabaka Yeka. Sabasajja, oh. Intimidation. When you say this, atunde Sabasajja mukamwa. But politics is about okutunula mukamwa. Now if you say Sabasajja mukamwa, so the first consequence was we had the elections April 1962. What were the results? Because they have already fragmented the people. All these identity groups you are talking about are minorities in Uganda. If you say Catholics, they are a minority in Uganda. You say Protestants, they are a minority. You say Baganda, they are a minority. So if you go by that line, you will never have a viable government. What were the results? 1962, I was there. UPC, first of all, there were no direct elections in Uganda because Kabaka Yeka did not allow direct elections in Uganda. They had to have indirect elections. Elect to the Rukiko, then the Rukiko is the one to elect to the National Assembly. So the elections, direct elections were held outside Buganda. What were the results? UPC, 37 seats. DP, 24. Although the votes were almost the same, the votes, but you know UPC how it would changa. These people don't know the slogans of UPC. Changa. Changa means you cheat. So they had changa. Although the votes of UPC, and you can go in the library and check. Although the votes of UPC and DP outside Uganda were almost equal, but UPC got 37 seats, DP got 24. Now, Kabaka Yeka had 21 seats elected in the other separate way. So nobody could form a government. 37, 24, 21. So what happens now? That's how the UPC makes Omukago coalition with Kabaka Yeka. So you get the 37 plus the 21, those are 58. Then you have the special, there were 9 seats specially elected by National Assembly now. So they elect another 9. That's how they formed the government. Government of Omukago, of coalition. Now, government of Omukago, of coalition, is the government of Kwega Yirira. You cannot, Kwega Yirira is to kubembeleza, kwa Kiswahili tunasema kubembeleza. You can't push anybody, no. It is begging here. Now that government lasted only 2 years. By 1964, the coalition had collapsed. It had collapsed on the issue of Chibale district now. This Chibale district, at that time there were 2 counties of Bunyoro, which had been put in Buganda by the British, Buyaganda Bugangaizi, and they voted to go back to Bunyoro. So the coalition collapsed. And so on and so forth. 1966, Mutesa fights with Obote. 1971, Amin comes in. That's how we missed our chance. So I'm very glad to see you here, you people, so that we avoid those mistakes. The NRM, of course, had a better foundation because we started from the beginning. We had time to build. We built an army. We built the LOCs, which are still there. But within the elite, political elite, you still have all sorts of divisions. But if we share our experiences, frankly, and also the NRM does more work, more ideological work, the future of Uganda is very bright. Therefore, this dialogue is most welcome. I am in this dialogue as a matter of principle. And like what Mao was saying, it's not because there is electricity from that he has applied electric shock that I am now responding to electricity. This is a matter of principle. In 1979, we captured Mbarara on the 28th of February, 1979. Then Marim called me back. I went back to Dar es Salaam. I discussed with Mzee Obote. We even formed a joint council, a joint committee, where he would be chairman, I would be vice chairman. But then Mosh Conference came in, and we negotiated with Lule. Then Lule had issues, then we worked with the Binaisa. So, dialogue is not new at all. The question is, what do we dialogue on? We are ready, and I'm really surprised some people have been avoiding dialogue. When you avoid dialogue, it means there is some problem. And me, when I go to meetings, I go unconditionally. Yeah. When I went to negotiate with Tito Okello in Nairobi, it was unconditional. Because I go with my head. I don't leave it at home. If I left my head at home, I would worry that I forgot my head. What shall I say in the meeting? I go with my head. You say something. I don't agree. I say no. I don't agree. Finished. What do I fear in a meeting? There's really wasting time. So I'm very glad that the room is nearly full. I hope next time this little gap will also be filled, so that we discuss, and some of the issues are easier to deal with. For instance, when we are talking, they will have more details. The issue of political funding, the sort of formula they suggested me, I supported it. I don't want to go into the details, but because Sagara Okujura Evitayide, but like that one, I don't see any problem. The political funding, how do we fund the politics? How do we fund the political parties? We discuss it, and we have agreed. At the right time, they will bring out the details. The issue of GMO, the elected people, the Secretary General, the one who was speaking, is he Secretary General? What he was talking about, you are elected for a certain party. When you come to Parliament, you take another position. That was part of the problem of the 1960s. Because of Bataringaya, whom we had elected as DP leader of...
Echiraku ku Baba TV chiwagirwa
Nisa hair removal cream akuwoni okukozesa obumwero buli kiseera ate nga akola buli kutika kya mubiri.
Echiraku ku Baba TV.
Hello and welcome to the Booting Test of Uganda Challenge. Let's meet our contestants. They've come from, they've all chosen Fortune Butter and Nunu Curry Powder. Finally, I present to you the Test of Uganda.
Baba TV, obusoga bulayire.
resign, go back and get a fresh mandate. I totally agree with that. It would stabilize. It will stabilize democracy. There are so many things we talked about in the side meeting. I can't exhaust them, but they are all covered. They will be brought forward at the right time. I thank you, and I wish all of you good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, the President and the Chairman, the National Chairman of the National Resistance Movement. Delegates, thank you so much for your patience. We are now coming to the end of this ceremony. I'm now going to invite the President of the Uganda People's Congress, who is also the Chairman of the IPOD Summit, to come and officially close this meeting with the summary of the day. And after that, we will ask His Eminence Sheikh Muhammad Ali Waiswa, the Deputy Mufti, to come and make a closing prayer, which shall be followed immediately by the playing of both the Uganda National Anthem and the East African Anthem, and then after that we shall have lunch. You shall stay where you're seated. Coupons will be brought where you are. The presidents and secretary generals will go to the holding room for a few minutes. But for now, let me invite the President of the Uganda People's Congress to give us some remarks as we head to the closure of this day. Honorable Jim McKenna.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will invite you to, all of us, to sing it together at the appropriate time. I just need to recap on some of the processes which we went through before we officially close. There was an agenda set by the IPOD Council which brought this summit about on the theme of strengthening multi-party governance in Uganda. The 4 agenda items were: 1, strengthening political parties to enhance their relevance and effectiveness; 2, enacting constitutional and electoral law reforms to improve the functioning of Uganda's multi-party system; 3, promotion of inclusiveness in politics, especially regarding the role of gender and youth; and 4, improving governance, human rights, and the observance of the rule of law. As members of the summit, we adopted this agenda, went through on some details, and made some recommendations, which, as per the procedure, is referred back to the IPOD Council, which is going to look into these matters in greater detail and using a cross-party technical teams. In other words, all parties will be involved in improving and perfecting on these agenda items. This will take place in the period between January and April. On May 15th, we shall have another summit meeting where the IPOD Council will bring back these matters for adoption and going forward on this issue. I would like to point out, in case it got lost, us within the UPC, together with our brothers and sisters in the Democratic Party and members of JEMA, we intend to remain here within the body politic way beyond 2021. And We support a united, prosperous country. We want to work for the benefit of Uganda, and we remain committed to that dream of seeing a Uganda which we can all be proud of, and to work towards that objective. I want to reiterate, we had a very good and candid discussion. We covered a lot of ground, and we hope to continue within that spirit. We have different ideas of how we'll get to where we're going, but I think we have to get there together for us to survive as a nation. Mr. President, after this, there's been a request that if the party president can pose for photos with the different delegations after the conclusion of the processes here. And therefore, on that note, without further ado, I would like to close this summit, and we meet again on the 15th of May under the chairmanship of the Democratic Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Jimmy Akena, for closing the summit. We have come to the end of the formal proceedings. Just to remind you, we are going to have a closing prayer. Immediately after the closing prayer, we'll have the anthems playing, and I request that you all sit and let the party principals and their secretary generals step up to the holding room. As we prepare for lunch, you'll get your coupons where you are seated, and we shall have lunch in the Stables restaurant, and thereafter some entertainment and merrymaking.
Correction, the photographs here.
Oh, then before that we shall have the photographs, and then we get out.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda and the Chairman, NRM, honorable leaders of the different parties, the presidents of DP, JEMA, and UPC here present, distinguished delegates, development partners, allow me, before I say the supplication, to convey on behalf of His Eminence, the Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Shaban Ramadan Mubajje, the Chair, Interreligious Council of Uganda, to convey his greetings, and also the message that we at Interreligious Council of Uganda and the Elders Forum, all along, we have been advocating for a national dialogue. We therefore appreciate IPOD Summit, which has been a step in the right direction. As religious leaders under IRCU and the Elders Forum, we would like to sincerely congratulate our political leaders to have agreed on this interparty dialogue. At IRCU, we believe that once you engage people, they become more committed to finding lasting solutions to their problems. We have been very much encouraged by your spirit of dialogue, and in a special way that His Excellency the President Museveni, for his unwavering support for dialogue. Indeed, as he has just indicated, he has participated in many of them. Indeed, dialogue is as old as human history, but we need to streamline dialogue as to the needs of the time. On our part, we wish to encourage and call upon every Ugandan in their diversity to support our political leaders to sustain this process and implement the outcomes of this dialogue. Dialogue is not an option, it is an imperative. We therefore wish to request you to fully support the efforts towards the organizing of national dialogue by the Interreligious Council of Uganda, the Elders Forum, the eminent persons, and other organizations that are well-wishing to this kind of arrangement. In the name of the Almighty God, the compassionate, the merciful, praise be to thee, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. We thank you, O Lord, for this beautiful day. We thank you for this rare occasion. We thank you for our president. We thank you for our presidents of the different parties. We thank you for all the delegates who are here. We thank you for the development partners who have been behind the support of this kind of arrangement. We pray and thank you for our beautiful nation, Uganda. We thank you for the prevailing peace that has created a conducive environment for such to happen. We thank you, Almighty God, that our country's beauty is the pearl of Africa. It is full of all beautiful people. And of recent, our daughter, who is the Queen of Africa and became third in the international beauty context. That explains how beautiful we are. The Ugandans are good. We pray, Almighty God, that you continue to strengthen our unity. You allow us to understand each other, to forgive one another, to tolerate one another, and you allow us to build the nation as it may require. We pray, Almighty God, that you continue to preserve good health for our leaders, especially our president and the entire executive, and we pray that you continue to provide for all Ugandans wherever they may be. There are indeed some difficult situations, but Almighty God, with your help and these visions that we have had, we have a hope that will all be overcome. We therefore pray that you prevail your hand of might over us, and as we go back, you take us back safely to our respective destinations. In your mighty name we pray.
So we shall all stand up for the singing of the national anthems.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tulijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike,
ayiwe data bana mama John ati migugu gitwara wabanange
kanobe nkulekera amakago otandika otugenda kusomero no jaya abana bagenda kola bibuzo
nabatute basome amasomo gagenda kubayamba munsi
kwani yagamye tibe basoma tabigenda baya
mono ko tolito
fete twamusoma
ate mwamusoma si ababonyabonye nabatute mu Mengo Technical and Business Institute Nansana